let's talk about an unfortunate early retirement for Logic, one of your favorite rappers.
Sometimes.
Yeah, at times. And yeah, I mean, it's just a sad day, when Logic hangs up the mic and goes to Twitch to become a very lucrative gaming streamer, apparently. What?
Evidently. I mean, he's never shied away from his love of gaming and nerd culture, so it's not totally unsurprising. He clearly is being very thoughtful about his post-retirement plans, though. So I guess he wants to be a dad. He's already a dad. He wants to be a good dad, and I guess being a streamer at home is easier than going on tour for half the year, every year for like the last 6 years, which is what he did. So I guess you can understand it. I was much more skeptical about the whole retirement thing because it's a very common refrain we've heard in hip hop. Jay-Z, Lil Wayne, Lil Uzi Vert. Like, it happens a lot. It very rarely has any substance to it or even lasts all that long. But, hearing No Pressure, Bobby's 6 LP, some of these songs, you're like, wow, okay, you actually do sound like you're ready to stop. And I did like this album a lot. And honestly, the way this album framed it for me was I'm just even more disappointed in other parts of his career because of his lack of consistency. I always trumpeted and triumphed about his really good songcraft and album making. And he just really got away from that for like the last 4 years. And it just was disappointing because you knew it was there. And we talked about Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. His last album came out early in 2019. And he just felt completely aimless and kind of at the top of the game with nothing left to prove. And it turns out he accepted that was the case and decided to hang it up. And I'm just disappointed in some of those other albums even more now because you could see this right here. Like, he's so in command and so aware of his situation on this album. It's just, to me, it's just kind of disappointing again that he's kind of lost his way the past few years.
Yeah, it's funny just going through since we started the podcast. The projects he's put out, everybody, I think we thought was okay.
No, I think that's my least favorite one.
I think I thought that one was okay. I mean, come on, and so
it has 1-800 on it, which is the inflection point in his career, of course. But that's when he started getting into weeds for me.
It has an awesome cover.
Well, they all do. Shout out Sam Spratt. We'll give him that.
Bobby Tarantino too. Young Sinatra 4.
That was the last breath of fresh air.
And then Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. I mean, that's
trash.
It's not a strong showing, especially because you look up Under Pressure, good album. I think Bobby Tarantino, good. Incredibly True Story. I mean, I don't know.
That's the Under Pressure and Incredible True Story are my two favorites. His first two albums, and Young Sinatra 4 was very interesting because when I first heard it, I'm like, oh, here he is. This is back to mixtape Bob. We got the boom bap samples. We got the throwback rapping to rap. He's not delving into modern trends like he did on the Bobby Tarantino songs. This is more like back to the old school shit. And when it hit, it did hit, but it ultimately was I believe he called that an album. I believe it was an album that just, it didn't quite have the replay value I expected when I first heard it, even though a song like Wu-Tang Forever, where you get really inspired effort from the entire Wu-Tang clan. Like, obviously it was a huge flex and that song's still great, but yeah, it's like, it was when I heard Confessions of a Dangerous Mind last year, I really kind of separated Logic, and I was like, okay, I think I just need to just lower my expectations, and he's just moved to a different place in his career. And then hearing this, and I'm like, wow, this is a direct sequel to his debut album, and just as kind of thoughtful about everything he's doing, and it's quite the 10-year career, because of the wild fluctuations in quality, despite the obvious talent that Logic has always displayed.
Well, and I think what really helps this album to feel so cohesive, but also so much of what we really love about Logic is No ID. He's back helming, the production of this, and I think it's pretty obvious. And I also think I think it was a lot more focused, and it was a very obvious like this is my perspective on things, mental health, society, why I'm retiring, why I'm stepping away, why being a father
Mhm.
is important to me. Um, and he kind of just created this like almost like documentary style like final album in a way. It has like the interludes where
Mhm.
the like female robot voice is like, he listened to
Dahlia
this.
back
Yeah,
from the
Dahlia.
first two albums. It's a nice completing the circle once again because she had popped up in the beginning.
And I think you can hear so much of him really putting his whole influence into this. And they talk about the influences that he used. They shout out Kanye and uh
Yeah, Outcast sample
yeah.
on GP4.
Yep, it's the drums from Elevators, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very obvious.
There's
Like,
an Erica Badu sample on here.
yeah,
In general, a lot of samples,
and
interpolations and stuff, Kanye references.
and it infuses like the jazzy R&B side of Logic that I think he flows and really meshes with and feels inspired by. He name drops his heroes in this too. I mean, like he literally like talks about Quentin Tarantino. I think like twice. I think if he
That's right.
mentions him, it's very much like just everything Logic has made his career. It feels like he's put in here, and yeah, I was really impressed by it. It actually makes me sad that he's walking away, but like you said, I think he actually lays out. He doesn't really feel like he has anything to say anymore. His life is focused around being a father, and that's pretty boring. So not really much else to talk about, I guess. I'm sure that will change. I don't think he'll stay retired. But what were the songs on here that stood out to you the
I
most?
mean, speaking to Logic, really getting into why he feels he needs to hang it up. I think there's two obvious places. That'd be Dad Bod, which just got a music video, and Dark Place.
Mm-hmm.
And they're very different songs. Dark Place, as it suggests, is a much more moodier, introspective song, and Dad Bod is quite self-aware. And Logic has attempted to be self-aware in the past. It's often come across as really corny or over the top. But I think in this case, you hear Logic is telling you how his life has changed and what his actual circumstances are, and how it's not like the stereotypical rapper on a pedestal, lifestyle. And then on Dark Place, you really hear him talking about um, kind of those insecurities and his struggle with mental health, I guess, of late. And it's funny if you remember on Young Sinatra 4, he openly acknowledged if getting to be a good rapper, if he would have time for a family, and now he's literally coming to the conclusion that I would not have time for a family the way I want to, and that would make me sad. Therefore, I can't keep doing this. It's some of his most introspective, I think, musings he's shared.
Yeah, I think he lays himself out here pretty bare in a lot of this. I agree. I really liked those two songs. I mean, in terms of like other songs that really stood out, I felt like it was just an easy listen of an album. Like it
Mm-hmm.
really flowed well. Um, I guess I really liked Man I Is. I thought that was a really
Mm-hmm.
strong track. Just very like R&B, has like those horns, that guitar that you kind of ride on. Um, let's see what else. Amen. I really liked one of the last tracks stood out to me after I heard him say, which I thought also was pretty good. I don't know what were the tracks that you found yourself going back to.
Yeah, I meant well. I think No Pressure intro hit my line GP4. That's a really strong um, start, and
Mm-hmm.
GP4 is a bit of a banger. Before that, you have Hit My Line, which kind of reminds me of some older songs, like I don't know, maybe Fade Away, where it's almost like more, or yeah, it's like more understated, not as aggressive Logic, um, kind of like more sing songy. And then later on, you have the sequel to Soul Food 2, which is on his debut album. Yeah, that's a good one for the fans. And later on, right at the end of the album, right, you get this is the end of the No Pressure sessions or program, however it's phrased.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's time for the Ultra 85. And it's really just Logic being like, thanks to all my fans,
Yep.
glorified outro, right? And I thought that was an interesting moment because Ultra 85 has long been hyped up as this um, to be released Logic project, a la various Kanye projects that we know by name and nothing else, right? And it seems like Logic is basically like saluting to the fans, like, hey, um, Don't think that's ever happening, but I see you guys. Peace. That was
Yeah.
kind of cool. Because and Logic has talked about he's kind of like a Mac Miller. He just has multiple projects more or less complete just on the hard drives.
Mhm.
And maybe we'll get one of those one day, who knows? But um thought it was cool to see him kind of acknowledge the those hardcores there. I also really liked Five Hooks, speaking of samples. So, this is an album that I think, like you said, it's very easy to listen to, and you can kind of just throw it on at any point and just kind of enjoy it. So, yeah, it's definitely one of his strongest, if not his strongest projects. I think that's pretty obvious. I think my favorite quotable would be from Celebration, where he's speaking to Twitch. He says, "I'm Spike Spiegel, but I'm known to be vicious." That's a reference to Cowboy Bebop, legendary anime. So, it's very Logic esque, dropping an anime bar.
Well, I think the intro to that even is he watched a lot of anime
Yeah,
while recording this, right? So,
Cowboy Bebop, Trigun, and Samurai Champloo.
yep.
3 shonen dude animes.
Dave, I mean, I would consider you a fairly big Logic fan. How are you feeling about if this is his last album? Do you feel like this is really like? Do you think this is it? I guess, and then how are you feeling just in general if this
It
is?
does seem clear that he wants to be away for a while.
Mhm.
He makes a really strong, compelling, thoughtful personal case about why
Mhm.
that is. So I didn't think this going until I heard it, but now I do believe that it'll be some time before we hear him again. We will hear him again. He's only 30. He's just too young to
Mhm.
never come back. He has completed music. He has Twitch. He may fucking play snippets on Twitch sometimes. Who knows, right? But if it's gonna be a while, he's released a project. I believe it was every single year of the 2010s except for 1 year. You have all of his mixtapes, all of his
Mhm.
albums, and that's a lot of music and a
Mhm.
lot of variation as he's going. And as I said before, not all of it was good. Some of it was really frustrating and annoying. And I think at Logic's worst points, he would just be rapping to rap and not really making much sense and not saying
Mhm.
much of anything, which is again frustrating for a guy who we knew had things to say. So I just find this a really graceful exit, and even if it's a temporary one, so I'm quite happy with it. And at the end of the day, he's got a fucking lot of music, so it's gonna be a while before I think I'm tired of all the songs I like of his because he's put so much out already.
Well, I'm glad that you enjoyed Logic's last album ever. I wonder if he would do like the Donald Glover thing where he kind of drops the name and comes back just as I don't even know his name, Bobby whatever
Bobby
it is,
Hall,
Bobby Hall
something like
the
that.
third or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. See you, Logic. Thank you for the great last album.